I threw the divorce papers onto the table, a neat stack landing precisely in the center of the floral placemat she hated. Welcome to Cheating Story Exposed. Please subscribe. My name is Ethan, and I'm an architect who appreciates symmetry even in destruction. She gasped, a theatrical performance I'd grown accustomed to over the years. It was a far cry from the genuine affection I remembered. My wife threw dishes, plates, tantrum. I threw suitcases, papers, marriage. Years of resentment finally boiled over, leaving our home looking like a hurricane hit a china shop and our hearts even more shattered. Turns out I'm really bad at throwing things. What is this? She stammered, picking up the top sheet with trembling fingers. Read it, I said, my voice calm, almost detached. It was a tone I'd cultivated, a shield against the emotional shrapnel she so readily deployed. She scanned the document, her eyes widening with each line. The color drained from her face, leaving her looking pale and fragile. It was an effective look, one she'd used to great advantage in the past. My wife threw dishes, plates, tantrum. I threw suitcases, papers, marriage. The fights escalated so quickly. 1 minute we were arguing about whose turn it was to do dishes. The next, divorce papers were flying. Talk about a clean break. You can't be serious, she whispered, her voice barely audible. I assure you I am. Every I is dotted, every T is crossed. It's all there, legally binding and ready for your signature. But why? What happened? What happened, really? Let's rewind, shall we? To the chipped china, the passive-aggressive remarks, the increasingly frequent girls' nights out that stretched until dawn. My wife threw dishes, plates, tantrum. I threw suitcases, papers, marriage. Our therapist warned us about destructive communication patterns, but I guess we just preferred performance art. Now accepting applications for a new partner who appreciates modern art. Her eyes narrowed. You're being ridiculous. We've had some disagreements, yes, but that doesn't mean we need to throw away our entire marriage. Disagreements? That's a rather sanitized way of describing the emotional warfare you've been waging for the past 2 years. And as for throwing things away, you seem to have a knack for that already. She stood up abruptly, knocking over her water glass. Water spilled across the table, soaking the divorce papers. It seemed almost symbolic. My wife threw dishes, plates, tantrum. I threw suitcases, papers, marriage. Looking back, the signs were there. Passive-aggressive notes, silent treatments, the occasional flying utensil. I guess now I can finally decorate the way **** want. You did that on purpose, I said, my voice flat. Maybe I did, maybe I'm tired of you being so perfect, so controlled, you never show any emotion. I show plenty of emotion, I just don't express it by smashing plates against the wall. Oh, so now you're judging me? You think you're better than me? I think we're fundamentally incompatible, and I think that continuing this charade is detrimental to both of our well-being. Well-being, is that what you call it? You're just afraid of commitment. You're afraid of being vulnerable. I'm not afraid of commitment. I'm afraid of committing to a lifetime of this. Of walking on eggshells, of anticipating the next explosion, of constantly having to repair the damage. She crossed her arms, her face a mask of defiance. So what? You're just giving up? You're not even going to try to fix things? I have tried for a long time, but you seem to prefer demolition to renovation. I stood up, pushing my chair back with a quiet scrape. I'll be staying at a hotel for the next few weeks. My lawyer will be in touch regarding the details of the divorce settlement. I suggest you find your own representation. I turned and walked out of the dining room, leaving her standing there amidst the wreckage of our marriage. It was a scene I wouldn't miss. Hook, the truth was the chipped china was just the surface. The real cracks ran much deeper. It started subtly, almost imperceptibly. A snide comment here, a rolled eye there. Little digs disguised as jokes. I initially brushed them off, attributing them to stress or fatigue. But the frequency increased, the barbs sharpened, and soon I found myself constantly on edge, anticipating the next attack. Ethan, and I'm a strategic architect. I noticed a pattern of withdrawals on our joint account. Small amounts, nothing alarming at first. But then they grew larger, more frequent. I started documenting everything, meticulously tracking the dates, amounts, and locations of the transactions. Hook, I installed a simple program on my phone to record our conversations. I knew it was a bit extreme, but I needed proof. I needed to understand what was happening. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. The recordings revealed a pattern of coded language, of veiled references to someone named Alex. At first, I dismissed it as a friend, a colleague. But the tone, the inflection, suggested something more intimate. I decided to follow her. I know it sounds like something out of a bad movie, but I felt I had no other choice. One evening, she told me she was going to a book club meeting. I waited an hour after she left, then quietly followed her car. She didn't go to the library. She drove to a small, secluded restaurant on the outskirts of town. I parked across the street and watched as she entered. A few minutes later, a man arrived. He was tall, handsome, with a confident swagger. They greeted each other with a warm embrace. Hook, I zoomed in with my camera. The man leaned in, whispering something in her ear. She laughed, a genuine, carefree laugh that I hadn't heard in years. It was like a knife twisting in my gut. I watched them for 2 hours. They held hands, they shared stories, they looked at each other with an intensity that was both heartbreaking and infuriating. It was clear they were having an affair. I didn't confront them. I didn't storm into the restaurant and make a scene. I simply documented everything. I took pictures, I recorded their conversation, I gathered my evidence. The next morning, I hired a private investigator. I needed to be absolutely certain. I needed irrefutable proof. The investigator confirmed my suspicions. Alex was a colleague of hers, and they had been having an affair for the past 6 months. Hook, I felt a strange mix of emotions, anger, betrayal, sadness, and a surprising sense of relief. Relief that I wasn't crazy, that my instincts had been right all along. Relief that I finally had the answer. I spent the next few weeks preparing for the divorce. I consulted with a lawyer, I gathered my financial records, I made a list of my assets. I wanted to ensure that I was protected, that I wasn't taken advantage of. I also started working on myself. I went to the gym, I ate healthy, I spent time with friends. I wanted to be strong both physically and emotionally. I knew that the divorce would be difficult, but I was determined to get through it with my head held high. Hook, I presented the evidence to my lawyer. He was impressed. He said it was one of the most comprehensive cases he had ever seen. He assured me that I would be in a strong position to negotiate a favorable settlement. When I finally presented her with the divorce papers, I also included a USB drive containing all the evidence I had gathered. The pictures, the recordings, the investigator's report. I wanted her to know that I knew everything. She initially denied everything. She accused me of being paranoid, of being controlling, of making things up. But when I showed her the evidence, she broke down. She confessed to the affair, she apologized for her behavior, she begged me to forgive her. I listened to her pleas, but my mind was made up. The trust was broken, the damage was done. There was no going back. I negotiated a settlement that was fair to both of us. I didn't try to punish her, I didn't try to take everything. I simply wanted to move on with my life. Hook, the divorce was finalized a few months later. It was a painful process, but I got through it. I emerged stronger, wiser, and more resilient. I learned a lot about myself during that time. I learned that I am capable of handling difficult situations with grace and composure. I learned that I am stronger than I thought I was. I learned that I deserve to be with someone who loves and respects me. I also learned that sometimes the best thing you can do is to let go, to walk away from a toxic situation, to start fresh, to create a new life for yourself. Hook, I sold the house we shared. It held too many memories, too much pain. I bought a new apartment in the city, a sleek, modern space with clean lines and minimalist decor. It was a reflection of my new life, simple, uncluttered, and focused on the future. I started dating again. It was awkward at first, but I eventually found someone who I connected with. She was intelligent, funny, and kind. She appreciated my sense of humor, my passion for architecture, and my calm demeanor. We took things slow. We built a foundation of trust and respect. We communicated openly and honestly. It was a refreshing change from my previous relationship. Hook, I realized that I had been so focused on fixing my marriage that I had neglected my own needs. I had forgotten what it was like to be happy, to be fulfilled, to be myself. Now I prioritize my own well-being. I make time for the things I enjoy. I spend time with people who make me feel good. I am living a life that is authentic and meaningful. I occasionally think about my ex-wife. I wonder if she regrets her choices, if she has learned from her mistakes. I hope that she has found happiness, even if it's not with me, but I don't dwell on the past. I am focused on the present, on building a future that is filled with love, joy, and purpose. The dishes, the plates, the tantrums, they are all just memories now. Faded echoes of a life that no longer exists. I have moved on. I have rebuilt. I have created a new chapter in my story, and it's a chapter that I am excited to write. Hook, she called me a month after the divorce was finalized. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. Ethan, she said, her voice trembling. I wanted to apologize. I appreciate that, I said, my voice neutral. I know I hurt you. I know I made mistakes. I wasn't happy. I felt trapped. I understand, I said, but that doesn't excuse your behavior. No, it doesn't, and I'm not trying to excuse it. I just want you to know that I'm sorry, truly sorry. I accept your apology, I said, but I don't think we can be friends. I understand, she said. I didn't expect that, I just needed to say it. To get it off my chest. I'm glad you did, I said. I hope you find happiness. I hope you do too, she said. We hung up. I felt a sense of closure. The final chapter of our story had been written. A year later, I received an invitation to her wedding. She was marrying Alex. I considered not going, but I decided that it was important to show her that I had moved on, that I was happy for her. I went to the wedding with my girlfriend. We had been dating for almost a year, and I was deeply in love with her. She was everything my ex-wife wasn't, kind, supportive, and honest. I saw my ex-wife at the wedding. She looked beautiful, radiant. She smiled when she saw me, and I smiled back. There was no animosity, no resentment, just a shared understanding of the past. She introduced me to Alex. He seemed like a nice guy. He thanked me for coming to the wedding. I wished them both well. As I watched them exchange vows, I realized that I had truly forgiven her. I had let go of the anger and pain. I had moved on with my life. I knew that I was exactly where I was supposed to be. With the woman I loved, surrounded by friends and family, celebrating the beginning of a new chapter. The dishes, the plates, the tantrums, they were just a distant memory. A reminder of a life that I had left behind. A life that had ultimately led me to where I am today. I looked at my girlfriend, her eyes sparkling with happiness. I took her hand and squeezed it gently. She smiled at me, a knowing smile. She understood everything. I knew that I had made the right decision. I had thrown away the marriage that was no longer serving me. I had chosen happiness over misery. I had chosen love over resentment, and in the end, that was all that mattered. I had found my own happily ever after, and it was more beautiful than I could have ever imagined. The victory came from intelligence, from strategic planning, and from the courage to walk away from a situation that was no longer sustainable. It was a victory that I had earned, and it was a victory that I would cherish forever. This is Ethan, signing off from Cheating Story Exposed. Until next time.